It's not.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
I'm well. There were two things that you said that I wanted to just to say, hey, if that's true, then what? Then that's cool. You said something about poverty causing education outcomes in blacks to be like poor. Then I just
hmm
want to remind you, they had in like what is currently ghetto, like black ghettos in New York now. They actually had like black high schools that produced very high quality high school graduates and very well prepared college graduates in the 19 or I guess they were prepared for college um, on like the East Coast in the 1920s and 30s when they were much poorer than today. And another thing that you said is that like you're attributing the decline in black educational outcomes from the 1960s onward to redlining. When I say, well, if that's true, that might be true, but then you're also then like, what are you discounting the fact that like all educational standards for Americans as a whole has dropped from the 1960s and 70s? I don't think that you can. I think it's way more complex than just saying they're poor, therefore that explains their outcomes, and then saying like, oh, redlining in the 70s, it's like the biggest factor that contributes to their declining educational outcomes since the 1970s. That's all I wanted to add.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you. There are additional complications to these things. One example that I can bring up is the usage of smartphones. It's actually it coincides very closely this sharp decline in school performance because of smartphones. In my opinion, I think that what needs to happen is basically instituting school or zones that are cell phone free, as in like having lockers in the front where you basically have to lock your cell phone and you can't access it until it's time to go home. There's a merit into the safety of this, specifically if there's a school shooter. Obviously, this is the case, but again, the teachers and the adults, they would still have cell phones. The whole purpose of this is to remove the distraction. And there's also like kind of like no cell phone policies, but they don't really like accomplish anything. Mostly because it's like if you have access to it in your backpack, what ends up happening is that you just kind of end up pulling it out and hiding it, and so you end up getting a worse off education as a result.
Sure. Yeah.
So I agree with you. It's a multifaceted issue. That's fine. But would you agree that at least it's one of the issues?
Yeah, it's one of the issues, but I think there are other things that better predict uh, like declines in student performance in public
Well,
education.
I can already tell you it's cell phones. Cell phones is a
Even
huge
before cell
there.
phones,
There's oh well I mean like
like No
we
Child Left
saw
Behind
like
is one.
slow drop offs, but nothing like what we observe with cell phones. But sure.
So yeah, I mean cell phones are like a moderately new thing, but educational outcomes have been pretty kind of like embarrassing for such a developed country.
hmm
I would say since like like 90s, even early 2000s, and then uh, I think No Child Left Behind. It
Oh,
didn't
No
do this
Child
to all
Left Behind was
schools,
terrible.
but yeah, but it actually created an incentive for schools to basically just pass people, just to pass
Yeah.
people to the next grade, which created which ended up with like grade inflation, GPA inflation, and degree inflation, or at least high school diploma inflation. And then these kids ended up going to college, uh,
And
and
then like being
it kind of
completely
like messed up
inept.
that. Yeah, exactly. So it's like we it's like well intentioned, right? Oh, no child left behind. It's not your fault you're born poor. We're gonna help you, give you a leg up in life. But what they ended up doing was they ended up just destroying the how do I say this? A high school diploma used to communicate to employers that the graduates of high school, on statistically, like on average, they had a set of skills that were a little bit different than the general population. But No Child Left Behind essentially destroyed that,
hmm
right? And I think the same is essentially happening for bachelor's degrees, and I'm gonna argue it's happening right now to master's degrees. And I think
There's
employers,
very
as a
few
result of
people
this, they're
with
literally.
bachelor's and master's degrees,
No, it
surprisingly
doesn't. It doesn't
speaking.
matter what percentage of it's whether or not it. You don't need 100% of people to have bachelor's degrees. What you need is that the current makeup of people with bachelor's degrees, it's no longer a reliable. way to sort the population.
Okay.
And I think what's really cool is that employers already see this and they're already responding to this. They're requiring, instead of just having diplomas, GPAs, etc., they literally just make you just demonstrate that you could do the job, or they just require certifications that don't come from, like
Do you think
the
this
conventional
depends,
education
though?
system. Do I think it depends what?
Like
Do I think what
on the
depends?
type of job? Like, do you think that
Yeah,
it could
absolutely. Yeah,
change
exactly. I agree.
based on the type of job? Okay.
Hmm.
Do you think that, let's say, if there's a degree that requires certifications, or generally it's a certification thing, do you think that a bachelor's degree hurts their job placement?
In some instances, it can.
How so?
Um, if if the degree that they get is not relevant to the field, or if it somehow causes that individual to then just like not want to do certain kinds of work.
Do you believe? Well, okay. So you're saying, like, because they're not willing to do backbreaking work, therefore their job placement is worse?
Maybe not backbreaking work, but they. I think there are some people in the United States. They get some sort of like they get some sort of weird master's degree, right? It's too specialized, and then they only want to get jobs that that master's degree gets them into, which is not that many jobs. But then if they just back out a little bit, go a little bit laterally in their field, and start an entry level position, it's like 10 years down the line, they'd be way better off than if they just kept passing up like pretty cool jobs.
So what do you think
Oh,
about
because they're like,
statistics
yeah.
regarding, like, how much somebody gets paid with a bachelor's degree versus how much they get paid
Oh, it's cool because
without a
I love
bachelor's
it.
degree?
I love those because then you can break it down to industries and degrees specifically, and you'll actually know that. Oh wait, there are actually people, if they have a bachelor's degree, they're actually not going to be they're not going to be making they're going to be making like less than the median, like whatever the fuck for other fields
What
and stuff like
job
that.
are
So I
you
agree. If you look
getting
at
where?
bachelors as a whole, then it seems to be still positive, but then that doesn't necessarily mean it's true for every individual who holds a bachelor's degree.
So, Nut, I'm kind of lost though. What do you think? Do you think that median amount, is it higher for bachelor's degree,
So
or is it lower?
So you can just look up the lowest earning like bachelor's degrees, and some of those outcomes will shock you. I haven't done this in a
Sure.
while, but
I mean, there are shitty
yeah,
bachelor's degrees. I don't disagree with
right.
that. But what is the median, right? We're just looking at the averages here.
I know you're looking at the bachelor's degree as a whole, but I'm saying that's fine. But that doesn't mean that therefore I'm just going to get a bachelor's degree in this like
Well, I
oversaturated
mean,
field that's essentially just being stolen. Like it's just being saturated with immigrants, and the wages necessarily will have to drop, right? Uh, just because bachelor's degrees as a whole are doing well
what are
doesn't
you
mean that you
talking about
shouldn't care
immigrants?
about what kind of field you get yourself into, because it's a really big commitment, and it's a financial gamble. You're basically saying that this degree that cost me like eighty
Well,
thousand to get $1,000 to get, it's going to
okay.
put
I
me
just want to
financially
point
better off.
out, if your bachelor's degree, hot take, if your bachelor's degree costs you $80,000, you are terrible with money.
I mean, isn't $80,000 the
You're
average cost? It's just twenty thousand
No,
dollars
like,
for every year.
this only is a thing.
That's like the
This
average
only is
cost.
a thing if, like, one, you decide, okay, I'm not going to go and first of all, I'm going to live on campus. Number two, I'm going to make sure that
Oh, man.
that I go
Oh,
straight to a university, including prerequisites. Number three, don't live anywhere close to your parents. Make sure that you have to have room and board and everything paid for. It's like, it's completely unsustainable. And then
bro,
on top
eighty
of it,
thousand,
you're going to a
not that
prestigious
bad,
university. Now you're talking that 80,000 number,
dude.
right? Now
Eighty
you're
thousand
getting your
dollars is
80,000
not that
number.
bad. It's $20,000 a year because most people do 4 years. And I think $80,000 was a statistic
Do
thrown
you know
around
how much in
in
debt
the
that I
sense that that's
was
how
when
much
I
it
got my
costs.
bachelor's?
I don't know, like zero.
9,000.
Oh, okay. See, well,
$9,000.
whatever.
I
It's
made
like
a
that's
hell of a lot
true.
more
Blah blah
money
blah.
than $9,000. I promise you that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you went to school kind of later. I think you kind of
Well,
just
no, I
you were
went
more
to
thoughtful about
community
what you did.
college for 2 years, got my
Hmm.
got the prereq degree, and then I transferred to, like, a university, got the bachelor's, and then I don't have a
Yeah.
lot in student debt, which is great.
So how old were you
It's
when you
fabulous.
when you got your degree? Weren't you like a little bit
I
older
think I was
than
like 25 or
22?
26. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna argue just just like giving yourself a few years to think about what you're gonna do before you commit. It's like a really cool it's a cool thing that worked out for you
I
because
suppose
some
so.
people
But I
they
mean,
just don't.
like
I guess they
my
quickly
problem,
get themselves
the
into
problem that I
without
have
thinking
with
about it.
with your claim is I think that well, one, I don't think having a college degree hurts you in any way. I think it helps, if anything. And two, when I observe the averages, right? And by the way, I agree with you that there are certain bachelor's degrees which are worthless. That's fine, right? We can agree with that, and at the same time, we can talk about the we can talk about how the median wage is higher for bachelor's degrees, and it's even higher for masters. Right? So like the problem that I'm having is that the statistics show getting a bachelor's degree is beneficial. It helps.
So I agree that right, and that's just like saying okay, it's like the stock market, right? If the economy is healthy, then the stock market as a whole is going to have a positive net. It's going to have like positive gains every year. But that doesn't mean you should just invest in any stock. I guess that's the best analogy that I can come up with right now.
Okay.
I'm not saying
That's fair.
that people shouldn't get educated. I'm saying that yes, as an aggregate, they're doing well because the institutions are doing well. I'm just going to argue that these institutions just sort job finders and job seekers, and then it says, okay, you have our seal of approval. Job finders and job seekers are now just allowed to meet more efficiently, right? That as the institution as a whole of like higher education still works for that function. That's why, people with degrees are earning more. But that doesn't mean, you should just like crapshoot what kind of degree you get. That would be detrimental, and I really hope that people don't do that.
Okay. Well, that's fair. Yeah, no, I think that you should have a very clear plan and make sure that whatever it is that you're going for, that you're going to enjoy it.
Yep, I agree.
Anyway, it was a good talk, man. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Likewise. All right, I'm going to go back and disappear into the audience.
Okay.